unexpected.
It's one of those you had to be there moments.
You had to be there.
It subsequently genuinely did change everything about my life.
You had to be there.
Right, I'm delighted to say Matt Jarvis is with us for this week's episode of You Had to Be There. Matt, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
You have seen some stuff in your time. This is an amazing list. Was it difficult for you to narrow down?
Yeah. There is a fair, but you sort of lose how much you've seen and what you've done. So you then have to try and piece together bits and pieces that you can remember that stick out. So yeah, I've got 5 good ones. Really
5 sensational ones. So let's get into them. I think in chronological order. Am I right? David Beckham is the first one.
That is correct. I'm sure you've had this one many a time, but just one of them things. I grew up a Man United fan, so to be able to go to Old Trafford as a kid, to watch David Beckham play for England, score that goal against Greece, and it gives me tingles now. It was the importance. He'd set up the goal for Sheringham, who just come on to then score, and it was like the 92nd minute. I think it was just 92nd and a half minute. And the importance of that goal and just the whole atmosphere in the stadium, it was just incredible. It's so hard to replicate something like that.
So, just to put some context on this for everybody, this game's in Old Trafford, is that right? Because Wembley is being redeveloped at that stage, and
that's correct. Yeah. So it's England game. Massive. At the time they were trailing 2-1, so it meant that they were going to go to the playoff to try and get through to the World Cup. So this goal sent England through to the World Cup finals. It was at Old Trafford. It was David Beckham. It was just 92nd and a half minute. It was just the whole importance, the crowd, the whole atmosphere. It was electric. And to be, I think I was only 16 years old. Was amazing to feel that as well, being just being in the crowd and hearing the atmosphere and feeling it.
It's funny, Matt, like we were talking earlier about Trent Alexander-Arnold's free kick last night, and you kind of could sense from his face before he struck it that he was confident and that it was probably going to hit the back of the net. What sense did you get when Beckham was stepping up? Because I think the whole country, obviously over in England, were holding their breath, but you probably got the sense that there was a strong possibility that this was going in the back of the net.
Yeah, I think things sort of just happen for a reason and timing, and he'd already had a few before, and you just put that down and you just think pivotal moments in people's career and in time, you just think that moment he just stepped up. Sheringham came to take the ball because he just scored, and he just was like, no, this is mine, and you could just, everyone walked away. He stood there, did his usual breathe, did his walk up, run up, stand there waiting, and then just as he run up and hit it, I still get tingles now actually thinking about it. It was so good to be able to see that happen, but it's just the importance of the game as well and everything that goes into context with it. It was an incredible experience.
It was how circular a moment it was too, because you said you were 16, Matt, so you would have been probably 13 at the outset of secondary school 3 years previous when Beckham was the villain in the 98 World Cup with the kick against Simeone. So it was almost like this moment of relief and reprieve for David Beckham, that this was the end of all the vitriol and hate directed towards him a few years earlier.
100%, yeah. As you say, I think wrongly he got crucified really for what happened. But for him, as you said, that importance and him, and he loved playing for his country, and that importance of being able to go, right, my goal has sent us through to the World Cup finals. And you could just see it in his face when he scored. Every player, everyone in the stadium was just so pleased. And I think that sort of really helped him personally get over everything that had happened previously.
Were you always both an England and a Manchester United fan? Because we'd have Andy Mitten on the show a good bit, and he talks that sometimes there are Manchester United fans who are Man United fans, and they're not actually always automatically England fans, that they'd have an interest in the team. Maybe it's more Daniel Harris who talks to us about this, and he'd like say, look, it's just the way it works, Manchester United is the team that they follow and they go to the away games. Were you always both?
100%. I was sort of like always an England fan. And then obviously growing up, I was a Man United fan, and like my sort of idol, I suppose, was Ryan Giggs. That was the position I sort of played and looked up to. So I sort of grew up with that. But it gets slightly different when you then start playing against them, and you sort of not lose the fan of you, but it's more important for your team to beat them rather than them to do well. So you sort of lose that. So I've always been an England fan to start with, out and out, and then obviously growing up, Man United was my team.
And as a matter of interest, whose results do you look for first on a Saturday or Sunday?
Do you know what? It's very different. I would probably say that I would look for Man United's, but then it's all my previous clubs that I would look for. So it's a very close one. But I'd probably say, well, not at the moment anyway. I wouldn't be watching United results at the moment.
Beckham, obviously one of the great free kick takers of all time. Matt, who would be number one in terms of the free kick takers you played against or played with yourself?
Well, just because it's fresh in my mind, I think James Maddison. He scored the other night against Nottingham Forest, his free kick. He's a special player and a special free kick taker for sure. Dimitri Payet, I played at West Ham. He was also pretty impressive on a set piece delivery. So there's I'm just trying to rack my brain now and think there's so many players that were so good at a dead ball situation. But it's nice, it's nice to see, for instance, James Maddison, because I've seen him after training practice, and then you can just see it in games. Now he steps up and you think, he's got a real chance of scoring at every single set piece he takes.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? We don't really think about the hours and hours and hours and hours of practice that goes into making Beckham's goal in particular. If anybody just doesn't remember the Beckham goal, it's not close. It's not like it's not like near to the edge of the penalty area. It's miles out. He just whacks it.
Yeah, it's one of them that you just expect it. I think, even though it should never, like it is, you say it's too far out, but it's sort of central in the pitch as well. It's outside the box. It's central. It's one that he's bent it sort of over the wall, but then towards the top left-hand corner. So it's the keeper's thinks he's going the other way to the keeper's side, and it just goes into the opposite corner, and he doesn't even dive. It's something that you would spend hours and hours practicing. But even in that situation, the pressure of it and everything about that free kick, that moment is down to hours and hours of practice. But it was a peach of a curl over the ball into the far corner.
I think the Alan Green commentary on BBC Radio 5 Live was fairly famous as well at the time. I know it, obviously the TV commentary as well, but I think there was a video a couple of years ago when the 20th anniversary was happening, or last year, where Beckham said he appeared in the video on Instagram to be listening to the commentary for the first ever time.
All right. Of
course, it could have been set up for social media purposes, but it's funny, Matt, how commentary for a big moment like that adds so much weight to it. It's kind of like the Aguero thing or Solskjaer. You remember the moment so much more because of good commentary.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it makes it, even if you're watching the game, or even if you play it back now and you say about the Aguero, that's exactly it. That's as famous as the goal, because everyone knows it. Everyone goes, Aguero! And you just can instantly picture yourself where you were or what you were doing at that particular moment. It's really iconic.
Let's move on. Aaron Lennon in an FA Youth Cup game. So I expect there wasn't a huge crowd at this. This is for Gillingham against Leeds.
Yes. So this was the first year. So when you go into the youth team at an academy, you play in the FA Youth Cup. And my first year, so you actually play the year up, because you have the 2 years of YTS, it used to be called. So you played the year up the first year. So our draw, we got Leeds away. So we played at Ellen Road. And you look through the team sheet, and now, anyway, you can look back, and there was like Aaron Lennon, James Milner, I think there was Kilgallen, there was someone else as well. But at the time, you didn't really know these players. And Aaron Lennon, I mean, yeah, we lost 4-0. I think I played right back with my right back. I was supposed to be playing, as a winger, but we literally defended the whole time. He scored a hat-trick, hit the bar and hit the post. And it was just devastating. At that age, I think we were 16. He was just so good, streaks ahead. He was so quick. and obviously was had 3 decent finishes, and then it was just. Yeah, it was a massive eye-opener to see how good these other players were at the same age as you.
Well, you say you were 16 because we just Googled the match report and it turns out he was only 15 at that point for Leeds. He was obviously playing up as well. So even like a year behind you guys in development, he was still running the game from the left wing. Or was it the right wing, did you say? The right wing.
Well, he was the right wing, yeah.
Do you follow his career as a result of that then, from that point on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was fortunate. I played against him many times, and I was probably still defending with. At the time, I moved over to the left, so I was playing left back with my left back to try and defend him. But you do look at their careers because you pick it out and you think, wow, he was impressive. And then you just follow and you think, oh yeah, he has developed, he's continued his process, and he's still playing now. And it was one of them that you knew what he was going to do, but you could just never stop him. He would be on the right, he would shift it a little bit, and then just open it up onto his right hand side, knock it down the line, and you knew he was going to do that, but you just couldn't get near him. He was so quick, so sharp, and he destroyed fullbacks for years.
Pretty good. The thing about Milner in that team is he basically plays a few more games and then straight into the first team, and then that's the start of his career as an adult. Do you remember Milner at all from that game?
I do. I mean, I picked out Lennon because he scored a hat-trick and hit the bar and hit the post, but Milner was exceptional. He run the show in that game, literally run the show. It was, I gave it to Aaron Lennon because of the goals and assists. But if you're looking on a whole round performance, James Milner was there. He was everywhere. He literally he epitomised what you would want from a young lad. His energy, his passing, his defensive, his leadership, and you could easily have said that at that moment in time you would be putting him in, you could never envisage his career as it's been, but you would say, okay, yeah, he's got a real chance. So you follow both of their careers because they were both very similar as well. Even though Milner sort of played in that game, I think he was more central. They both went to the wings as they went into the first team, and then you see they're very different players, but both very adaptable in the way that they played. So it was it was able to follow both their careers with huge relating back to that game, going, wow, yeah, they destroyed us.
Milner, Matt, is just a definition of a professional. If you're to listen to the accounts of all his teammates and managers across the years, is that something that I know you only would have obviously played against him at that age, but at 15, 16, is that something that's fairly obvious from that point straight away? You can tell that the players at that age who are going to go on and become the leaders.
You can, yes. It's all about attitude. It's all about commitment. The sacrifice that you would make. He was definitely going to be one of them that wouldn't have been going out with his mates and doing everything that normal people at 15, 16 were doing. You would be the ones that would be staying extra at training. You would be working on your game. You'd be thinking about other things, as in your roles, where you're supposed to be on the pitch. You'd be watching videos, that sort of thing, even at that age. And he would have been so close to the first team, as you said. So he would have been watching the older pros at that time. Leeds had they were incredible in the first team as well. So he had that opportunity to learn very quickly. But there's a lot of distractions at that age, so you do have to keep focused. And he was definitely, as you said, professionalism. He's got that. If you could build a person that you would want to play football and have that mentality and everything, that's James Milner.
Do you have any recollection of Andy Keogh? I just look at the team, the Leeds team there, and Andy was obviously went on to make. Just looking here, 30 Irish caps as well at senior level, and I think he was in Australia towards the tail end of his career. But
he was a teammate of mine at Wolves.
Right, yeah.
Incredible player. We won the championship, and he was a massive part of that. His link play between midfield and striker, because he scored some very important goals, but it was the the unselfishness, running and closing down and creating space for others in our team at that time, and the link play, as I said, he was great for that. And he's had an exceptional career, and he's only just retired, hasn't he? I think last year. So I still speak to Andy every now and again. He's a top guy.
You've got the Brazilian Ronaldo next for Real Madrid against Manchester United in the Champions League quarter-final in 2003. So despite the fact you're on the books of Gillingham, you're still going to Old Trafford, still a Manchester United fan, still going to games.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of them that has been every game, no. It was a long way for me. I was down in Guildford, so I was one of them, Surrey, Southern Man United fans. So it wasn't one of them that I would be going week in, week out. But it was just that game, seeing Ronaldo, he's... if you talk to anyone about that was a bit older that watched him or has watched any videos or been around with him, he was different to anyone that you've seen as a centre forward. His pace, his strength, his dribbling, the composure of finishing any sort of chance. He was just a standout performer, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone get a standing ovation from the other team as they come off. He come off towards the end. He'd scored a hat-trick. His whole performance was fantastic, and the Man United fans all stood up and clapped him off. And that doesn't happen. It does not happen in any sort of Champions League game. You don't expect that to happen. But it was just his performance. Even though Man United won the game, he's scoring three goals at Old Trafford. And the way that he the first one was a great run in behind and into the right-hand channel and just inside the box. And it was like a snapshot, and it went into the near post. Maybe Barthez could have saved it. I don't know. But it was just the initial run, the snapshot, that's what he had. He didn't have to have a huge run up to take a shot. It was just the power that he had in his legs that you just half a step and bang. And then it was just being in the right place at the right time, striker's instinct for the second one, a really good play by Real Madrid to cut through United, but just being inside the box for a nice tap in. And then the third was he picked up the ball in midway, I think just not too far outside the box. He's turned and he's just had another touch, and he just sort of struck the ball sort of on the laces, but it's one of them that it doesn't it lifts up high. It's like the way that Ronaldo strikes the ball now, as in Cristiano, where he pops it up and it goes up and then loops back down. It was one of them that it just took off and it went high and then dipped. As soon as it went over Barthez, it just dipped into the back of the net, and it was like silent, and you're just like, wow, that was incredible. So it's the only time that I've ever seen him as well, and obviously live. Like, it's just totally incredible to see someone like that and perform at that level as well in the Champions League. It was just a ridiculously good evening for himself personally.
I remember watching that match on TV as well, Matt, and like, it's one of those games where young kids in school are kind of copying techniques thereafter. I remember the Ricardo penalty shootout for Portugal when he took the gloves off, and everyone in school the next day was practicing penalties with no gloves. Similarly for that Ronaldo, like, kids thereafter for weeks after that game were trying to practice those shooting techniques, and not an easy one to perfect.
No, not at all. I think people are still trying to do that now. He started it, and then Cristiano sort of taken that on, and now everyone's trying to perfect this strike that you sort of punch the foot into the ball downwards, and then it balloons up and then has that huge dip at the end. It's just, at that point in time, no one had ever seen it. So it was just like, wow, how has he done that? So as you said, everyone wanted to practice that. Everyone wanted to do it. And I just think as well, even though he was such a, what they called, whatever they were.
Yeah, they were the Galacticos, yeah.
Yeah, he raised that up then. And then obviously you see then Beckham arriving there a bit later as well, and he raised that Ronaldo. He really did for what he was about as a striker, and he was then big moments in games and playing at the highest level. He was that, and he could just switch it on and you just leave you. He was so good. The step overs and he used to love going around a keeper as well. I don't know. He used to go up one-on-one with a keeper. They would just fall down. He would step over and go the other way. It was incredible.
There's a shout at that game and those games between United and Real Madrid. Neither of those two teams, they both break up a little bit over the next while. Like neither of them. I'm fairly sure that's the year that AC Milan play Juventus in the final, isn't it? That's they both. Yeah, and it's a 0-0, and it's like, but that's the end of the competition. Whereas actually, that's the Champions League. Those two games between Real Madrid and Manchester United is why we all fell in love with it. Not the brilliant defending in the final and it's a great example, blah 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 blah, like whatever. That quarter final, that was football.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like in recent years when you watch and you got Barcelona played like and then Paris Saint-Germain and all that. It's not a 0-0 games. You want to see exciting football. You want to see goals, and that Man United versus Real Madrid, you got all of that. You got great goals. You got silky skill. You got amazing players on display that are showing off their tricks. And no one really wants to see amazing defending in a 0-0 game, do they? In the Champions League, you want to see these incredibly gifted players to show their skills, and you want to see goals, and to have 7 of them is always nice to see.
I think I remember reading somewhere as well that Roman Abramovich was in the crowd that night at Old Trafford, and that's
where he fell in love with football.
Yeah, that's where he decided to plough the money into football. So one of those sliding doors moments. Like Matt, aside from Ronaldo, you mentioned, like, I think Figo and Zidane had maybe won Ballon d'Ors as well as Ronaldo in the years kind of preceding that match. Like a team full of talent, and even to see the likes of Figo and Zidane in person must have been quite special.
Gifted people like Zidane just made everything slow down. You think he had so much time on his like every time he received the ball, he was in no rush. Everything was at his pace. He was so silky smooth, like step overs, little Cruyff turns. Everything was just effortless. He was, I would say, the first person in that sort of position, because Ronaldo, R9, Brazilian Ronaldo was electric going forward and step overs, but he was all about pace, power, and scoring goals. Figo, again, was good. He was able to slow the game down and just had that class. Everything was about that team at that time was class. It was effortless. Everything was crisp. The passing was, everyone wanted to do little give and goes. It was all about scoring fantastic goals rather than just tap-ins. They did do tap-ins, but it was the play before that got them to that part was passing through the lines, little flick round the corner, stuff like that. They were there to entertain, and they were just so good at handling that pressure of big games as well. And you see there's an aura on the pitch with them, and other players, they just respected them so much. You've got that extra little bit of grace with them because you were probably scared of playing against them, to be honest, but you were so pleased to be on the same pitch as them, I expect.
Yeah. I got to interview him at Web Summit, and backstage he was everything you would want him to be, kind of hilarious and impish and talking about the good times, and basically he was taking the team to Ibiza to celebrate if they survived relegation, because he'd done it last year and they had a great party and it worked.
Oh, that has to be top of your list of interviewees.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, Jesus.
Right, let's move on. We have Aguero. It's against Newcastle in the Premier League in 2015. What was it about this?
Just the scoring 5 goals in 20 minutes. It's just one of my mates is a Newcastle fan, so because obviously I wouldn't be going to watch Man City, and so I wasn't in with City. I was in with Newcastle, and at the time I was at West Ham, so it was all a bit weird. But just seeing I apart from now with Haaland, I would say for me in being able to watch and play against them, but he's something incredible, one of the best Premier League strikers we've ever seen. His goal scoring ability was so good. He could score all types of goals. He was so strong. He was quick. He was just able to be in the right place at the right time. Whether it was like a simple tap in, a curling shot, or just put your laces through it, he was able to do it all. And they went 1-0 down in the game, and then he scored 5 goals in 20 minutes. It's just, you can't do that. It's the Premier League. You can't do that. And he just ripped up all of the books and was like, "Yep, no problem. 20 minutes, scored 5 goals, and he's still hungry for more, like all goal scorers do. They just want to score goals. I sort of put like Jermaine Defoe in that sort of bracket that just wants to score goals. It doesn't matter what score is, what the team's doing. You want to score goals, and Aguero was like that. And I don't know how you can compare that to anything else of scoring 5 goals in a Premier League game in 20 minutes. And he put them back to the top of the league. So incredible striker. I was fortunate to play against him quite a few times. He didn't score 5 against us, but
it's similar, Matt, in terms of like looking at the City team currently, and when you see Haaland, and obviously, understandably, Haaland's going to get a lot of the credit, but when you see the balls he's being supplied with from Foden and from De Bruyne, like just looking at who got the assists for those 5 Aguero goals, 4 of them, I mean, you had 2 from David Silva and 2 from De Bruyne. So, not to take any of the sheen in this conversation away from Sergio Aguero, but you need those players behind you supplying these balls in.
100%. You can't do it all yourself, and he was very lucky, and Haaland's extremely lucky as well that you've got players like that put it on. Not I would play. You even just see Haaland's goal the other day where De Bruyne just bends it round Varane for his goal. Like, there's not many players in the world that can play that ball. So he is fortunate, but he is in the right place at the right time. Aguero was always in the right place, right? That's why these players can pick him out. He doesn't need to look. It's instinctive. You've got the full package, though. Because you're a good player, you're in a good side. So then you've got the players around you that are going to be able to score to set them goals up. And as you talk about Haaland, if he can stay fit, and more importantly for him, if Kevin De Bruyne and Foden can stay fit, then I think they're going to be breaking all sorts of records this season.
Notable as well that those Aguero 5 goals, just reading here from the BBC match report, going into the game, as you say, like without a goal in open play and 595 minutes in all competitions, hadn't scored in the Premier League in 424 minutes since a game against Chelsea on the 16th of August. This was on the 3rd of October. So not only has he scored 5, but he scored 5 after a considerable drought.
Do you know what? I didn't even know that as well. So that is, well, there you go. It just shows what once you get one in, the floodgates open. I bet he didn't stop scoring after that. That is, as I mentioned about, strikers just want to score goals, and that's probably what, after going on a little bit of a drought, it's getting that first goal, and then that's it. Your confidence is back, and everything just starts coming. But 5 in 20 minutes is pretty impressive.
What do the Newcastle fans make of having a West Ham footballer in their midst?
They didn't see me.
Right?
Hood up.
They don't see me in there. No, I was under the radar. It was only for my mate who's a Newcastle fan that I was there, really.
In the corporate box, Matt?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, unfortunately I was not, no.
One last thing, you picked him playing in a match that you weren't playing in. I don't know if you're an NFL fan, but there was great footage this week from the previous Super Bowl where the Kansas City Chiefs were up against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the wide receivers for the Buccaneers were looking over at Patrick Mahomes going, "This guy's a magician. How did he do that? I can't believe it." Are there times when you're on the field against players and you're like, I cannot believe he's doing this to us. This guy's that special?
Yeah, there's so many that I can think of, but one that sticks out in my mind was the first year I was at Wolves. We got promoted and we went into the Premier League, and we played Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. And after about 5 minutes, I was chasing and I mean chasing, I was sprinting at that. You know, your first few games in the Premier League, you're sprinting around everywhere. The ball was with Ashley Cole. He passed it into William, who passed it into Hazard, who passed it to Juan Mata. And you're like, I couldn't get near any of them. They were flipping it around a corner, stopping it, shifting it. You know, William does that, stops the ball and shakes his right leg a little bit, and then good moves, and you just couldn't get anywhere near him. And Juan Mata, he was so good, and at that point I was just like, wow, this is like welcome to the Premier League. It was so good. They were so good. But it's them games that sort of make you want to improve and make you want to be like them. So you sort of just try and take it on board. It was a huge eye-opener.
The last one you have here is actually in Dublin. It's Leo Messi against Celtic in a pre-season friendly at the Aviva. What stuck out about this for you?
I put this in because it wasn't because he scored 6-7 goals. It was because it's the first time that I'd ever seen him play live. And he is, arguably, I'm a Ronaldo fan, but arguably them two, you're not going to see anything like that really of what he's done for the game and what he actually does in the game ever again. Kevin De Bruyne will come close, and Haaland and Mbappe, but what he has done is just incredible. And it was a pre-season friendly. He could have just strolled around, but what he does is the way he controls the ball, the way he controls the game. I needed to get him in somewhere. I would have loved to have said the Atletico Madrid goal that he scored, but obviously I was not there. But that it was just mind blowing sitting and watching. We weren't competing in that thing. We just went to the game because we were out there on pre-season as well, and just watching him, he was just so. He makes it, like I said about Zidane, he makes it effortless. He glides with the ball. He just shimmies and people just drop and he goes the other way. And he was so good. And I think that is, I say when he was in his peak. I mean, he's been in his peak for about 20 years, it seems. But he really was, like, everyone was fine. Suarez was there. It was a really good Barcelona squad. Although they didn't all play on that day, it was just so nice to watch him in pre-season and see the way that he goes around the pitch and what he brings to that team. I suppose he led everything. Everything went through him. Everyone was just giving him the ball, and he was a delight to watch.
Tell me, did everybody go? Did everybody get tickets? Were you kind of a ringleader going, listen, Messi's playing, we should go and see this?
No, I think there was quite a few. I don't know. I think it was the whole team went.
Right.
And we just sat there. I mean, he come off after I think it was about 60 minutes, but it was just, in pre-season of things to do. Oh, Barcelona are playing Celtic. You're like, okay, yeah, I'll go to that. Yeah, that seems like a good idea. And yeah, it's just when you get that opportunity to go and watch someone like that play, you've got to take it. And I'm very pleased that I did.
Taking those things off your sporting bucket list is so important, and getting to see Messi, that's something I want to take off before he retires inevitably. Like we have this conversation quite often, Matt, on the show in terms of things you want to see in a sporting sense. Like people talk about whether it's the Monaco Grand Prix or an NFL game in London or whatever it might be. Do you have anything more that you want to tick off over the coming 5-10 years in terms of sporting bucket list? I guess events.
Yeah, I've only been retired about a year, but I was one of them footballers who was silly and didn't really play golf during the time of playing football. So I'm only sort of now starting to get into it. So I've been to a few of like the PGAs and that, but I'd love to go to a Ryder Cup or something like that. That's because in golf everything's always obviously it's individual sport. But once you can get that sort of team morale and team atmosphere going in something like that, it would be something that I definitely would like to go and experience for sure.
Rome's a good town to go out in if you're going to the next one. One last question. When you were in Dublin, did you get to go out and have like a night out, or was it like strictly running in pre-season?
How can you not go out?
I was going to ask. Is that the X-rated after dark stories that we'll have to get you over for to tell properly?
100%. I mean, we've been to Dublin many times on pre-season in all different clubs, and I've been to Dublin more than I can remember for Christmas dues and all sorts. is probably up there with one of the best places I've ever been for that sort of evening. It's nothing better than live music and a squad of players all together. It's pretty impressive.
Matt, we are suckers for a bit of buttering up here, so you say all the right things. That's a great episode. You had to be there. Thanks so much for sharing your time with us, Matt. Cheers.
Pleasure.
It's so unexpected.
It's one of those you had to be there moments.
You had to be there.
It subsequently genuinely did change everything about my life.
I had to be there.
We are going to be back tomorrow morning, where we'll be joined by journalist Mark Wilson to reflect on Celtic's night in the Champions League. Offaly legend Johnny Pilkington's going to join us on the line as well. Always great to speak to him. We'll be talking with Irish sprinting superstar Israel Olatunde and much more besides. Right now, if you want to get up to date on how the Brazilian presidential election is using football, in particular the current Brazilian president is using football to try and further his aims, no better man than Tim Vickery on the planet to talk to explain it. Here he is in conversation with Joe Malloy. Enjoy. See you tomorrow.